Hello, I'm Graham and I hope everyone's having a great day. Welcome to today's video in which I'm having a look at the manual focus on the Panasonic Lumix FZ300 or the 330 as it's known in Europe. Now the implementation of manual focus on the 330, although not perfect, is a great improvement on that implemented on the FZ200. Manual focus can be employed in two ways. One, the manual focus only, and the second is the autofocus with manual focus fine adjustment. Let's first of all have a look at the manual focus mode itself. To enable manual focus, we simply need to switch the top switch which surrounds the AF/AE lock button to the manual focus position. I'm doing that right now. When we're in the manual focus position, the side control wheel controls the actual focus position. And if I turn that wheel now, you'll see on screen that we're getting an indication of where we are in the focus range between close-up, which is the flower symbol, and the mountains, which is the distant. The actual distance, unlike the FZ200, isn't displayed at all in terms of feet or meters. It will just give you an indication of where you are on the focus scale. And you can notice that we can quickly see when the image is in focus. It goes through the point of focus to out of focus, to the point of focus, and then out of focus. If you have transitioned from the FZ200, you may remember that in manual focus I showed a quick dodge there which enabled manual focus to incorporate automatic focus if you press the side focus button. If you press the side focus button again on the FZ300 or 330, it will go into an autofocus mode. And if I press that button now, you can see that the camera will acquire focus, give you the focus indication with the beep and the green light on screen to show that you've got focus lock. If you wanted to fine trim that, then of course you can use the side control wheel just to take it in and out of focus to ensure that you've got the actual focus point. But that focus button does enable you to get a quick focus if you're a long way from the focus position when you start to acquire manual focus. Now there are some setup parameters within the camera which will enable you to find that manual focus point more easily. And the first one to set up is what's called manual focus assist. And you'll find manual focus assist on page 3 of the customized setup. So it's the spanner icon with the C, page 3, manual focus assist. By default it will be on, but if you've turned it off, you can have it set so that the navigation cursor buttons will enable this operation, or the side focus button, or you can have it with the side focus button and the navigation keys. By default I will just use the side focus button, as that's the only button that I will use for the process of acquiring manual focus. So I'm going to set that to side focus. Now when we've done that, it would mean that when I turn the side wheel, we'll get an enlarged display of the area that's under the focus area. So you can see now that I can see that point of focus more clearly as I'm getting an enlarged view. If I want an even larger view, then I can use the top control dial to actually change the magnification. At the moment it's ×3, but if I change the top control dial I can go up to ×6. So now with it at ×6 I can get a very accurate preview of that focus point. Now you may remember in my introduction I did say that the implementation of manual focus, although much better than the FZ200, isn't perfect, and I'll describe what I mean by not perfect. The link between the side control wheel and the actual focus motor has a deadband in there, and you must be able to turn that wheel consistently and smoothly, and you must not stop. If you stop, the camera will stop focusing and you will lose that focus point. You have to keep that control moving. It's as though there's a minimum rotational speed that the camera needs to enable it to follow focus. So you can see on screen I'm moving the side control wheel by about 1/3 of a rotation, and you can see that I'm snapping in and out of focus. If I try to move the wheel very slowly, you'll find that there's nothing happening on the screen. You can't use the side wheel to creep the camera into the focus position. You have to be using a minimum rotational speed to find that focus point. It should have been fairly easy to implement a direct coupling between the lens encoder and the lens focus motor to give you a step-by-step actuation rather than this minimum focus speed, which I find a bit of an irritation. But that's the limitation of the camera, and you have to learn to work around that. And that is just by rocking the focus point backwards and forwards until you find the center point. After a period of time, the screen will return to its original screen without the picture-in-picture. If you touch the focus wheel again, you'll come back to the ×6 magnification, and it will stay there unless you return it to the ×3 by turning the top control dial. And if you wanted to cancel out from the enlarged view whilst you've got the enlarged view on screen, you can use the quick menu or function 3 button to disable that enlarged view. So that is the manual focus assist. There's also a feature in the camera menu called peaking, and peaking displays the areas of highest contrast in the image, which are going to be the ones that are in sharpest focus. Now peaking is enabled again in that custom menu on page 4, and you get the option to set the way peaking works. Now by default you'll find that it's in high and it's got a display color of blue. Now I find if you set that to low and change the peaking color to red, you get a much better indication of where that manual focus is. The choice of color will actually depend on your subject. Here I've got a subject which is got red, so the red highlighting isn't likely to show up on this image. So what I'm going to do is change that peaking mode, so it go back into set, change the peaking to something like blue, which will show up on this image. So now you can probably see on the image the areas that are highlighted with the blue, which are the ones considered to be in focus. And if I just change that focus position for you, you can probably see now on the image there's a lot more blue, which indicates those areas of sharpness. If you're finding the color of the image is a problem, that you can't find a peaking color which shows up against your subjects, then you can turn on what's called Monochrome Live View, and I've got that set on function button 2. I enable function button 2 for Monochrome Live Preview, and that turns off all the color apart from the peaking color, so you can actually now see on screen the blue against the colored object. So if I was to change the peaking back to red, you can see on screen that the peaking is enabled, and you can see the red outline to the spots on this little owl. If I wanted to go back into color preview, just press function button 2, and that brings me back into the normal live view color preview. I alluded to the fact that there was actually 2 modes where you could use manual focus. The second one is with the autofocus mode. So you can actually have autofocus with a manual focus override. And you'll find that again on page 3 of the setup display, and it's autofocus plus manual focus. Now if you press menu set, that gives you the option to turn that on. What that means that once you're in the autofocus mode, and again just switch back to autofocus with the top control switch, if I half depress the shutter button, the camera will go into an autofocus acquire mode. So we're now acquired focus, we've got the bleep, and we've got the green indication on screen that we've got focus lock. But it means now that whilst the shutter button is half depressed, I can use the side control wheel to actually fine tune that point. Now this operation is ideal for situations where the camera doesn't autofocus on the area that you particularly want. Picture for example a bird in a tree with a branch in front of it. The camera may acquire focus on the branch in front of the bird and not the bird itself. So using this facility you can actually quickly change the focus point to the area behind the branch that you want. So when you press the shutter button halfway down and hold it, you'll get the focus acquire, it will lock, you'll get the indication on screen by the green LED, you'll get the beep from the camera, but now when you change the position of focus with the side control wheel, you can actually fine tune that focus point. So if the camera has focused on the branch in front of the bird, quickly reach for your side control wheel and change the focus point to the one you want, and then take the picture by depressing the shutter button. So that's a very useful feature if you are finding that your autofocus point doesn't actually acquire the area that you want. Now unlike the FZ300, pressing the side focus button doesn't acquire focus in the autofocus mode, it merely enables you to go into the macro mode. So if you wanted a mode which enables you to change the way the camera operates, i.e. gives you an autofocus operation, if you press a button, then you can change the program feature of the AF/AE lock button from its default, which is the automatic exposure lock, to give you an autofocus operation. And to do that, you need to go into the custom setup menu, again on page 1 of the wrench with the C icon, and you'll find you've got AF/AE lock, and if you change that to autofocus on, it means that now when you press the back control button, you'll get autofocus acquire. It's the same as pressing the shutter button halfway down, but it means you can use what's called back button focus. You can actually acquire the focus and then depress the shutter if you wanted to get a faster shot. So that is the operation of setting autofocus to the AF lock button. Again, with the FZ300 330, you've got so many customized features that it's impossible for me to give you a genuine guideline as to which buttons to set for what operation. But for example, that function 2 I've got set for Monochrome live preview. Sometimes it's easier to focus in black and white than it is in colour. You're not distracted by the colours of the subject, and especially if you're using the peaking mode, this operation does give you a finer control of your manual focus. So that's it. That's the manual focus operation on the FZ300 330. Hope you enjoyed that. If you're a new viewer to the channel, please do consider clicking that subscribe button, and then you'll be notified in your subscription list if I upload any new videos to this channel. Also, check out my photographic blog. I'll put a link to that in the video description below, and you'll find much more information on Panasonic Lumix bridge cameras, Micro Four Thirds systems, and mirrorless cameras in general. There's also a complete download section of my user's manual for the FZ200 in there if you want to download that and have a look at some of the setup for the FZ200. So until my next video, thanks again for watching, please do take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.